doing?
Well, welcome and appreciate your time. Courtney, you want to
I mean,
kick us off?
yeah.
Alrighty. So, let's just start off with like how you guys have been during quarantine. So, how's that been going? So, just like kind of like a small little question.
Well, I mean, we thank God we got done. We wrapped season 2 in beginning of February, so we were able to get all our shooting done and everything. We finished in Alaska and ran to Utah real quick and did a few things, and we were done. Had a lot of events that we started to do between California and the East Coast, and those got I got a few done, but it got kind of pushed the rest of them out, and postponed them for a while. But I'm starting back up in June with the events and getting caught up on them. Thank God.
Awesome. And so for those who are just starting to tune in, we are live with Daryl Marston of A&EGhostHunters. Daryl has been in the paranormal area for quite some time, and we were very fortunate to be able to, reach out to him and ask him if he'd be interested in coming on, recognizing we're probably a smaller podcast. And yeah, he agreed, and we thought that was just awesome. Oh, not sure what happened there. And we really appreciated it. So,
I mean, guys, everybody starts somewhere. I started somewhere, and it's an honor for me to be here, and you guys wanting me to come on here, and I thank you very much. So yeah, don't act like it's taking time out. It's not, man. I love what I do, and this is all part of it. You're doing the podcast, the live feeds. That's where I started. I mean,
yeah.
well, that was a big part of my last 5 years, in this business was, podcasts and live streams. And it's still a big part of my life. Like I was saying earlier, which a lot of people already know, I'm co-owner of Paranormal Warehouse, which is the largest paranormal live feed in the world. And it's a big part of my life, and I love doing it. I do it every day in some aspects, between bringing new shows on or just working on different things on the actual Paranormal Warehouse side, plus doing all the Ghost Hunters stuff for A&E as well. So this is my life. So yeah, guys, it's an honor for me to be here. It really is.
Well, we really do. Again, we appreciate it, and I think it's awesome. So now, you started out with your own, like you were saying, your own podcast. It was American Ghost Hunter.
Yeah, well, I mean, I started investigating back in 2005 and six when I first started, but I got into the live streams, and I started out on YouTube, which a lot of people do, and I was doing YouTube Live for about a year or so, and I decided I wanted to do like more of a podcast style and just try my feed out in that, where it was it wasn't video, it was audible. And I didn't really like it, to be honest with you, because I think viewers like to see who they're talking to, and it's more intimate. So I reached out to Paranormal Warehouse, and they were already huge at the time, and they were gracious enough to say, "Hey, guy, I love your show. Come on board." So we brought the show over there. It was called the American Ghost Hunter Show. It's still going strong to this day. I just have a friend of mine running it for me, my co-host Alex King. And it blew up over there, and I thank God for it. And I'm very blessed. And now that was 3 years ago. Now I'm co-owner of it. So it goes to show you work hard and you take your time, you pace yourself, you'll get to where you want to go, and things like that come true for you.
That is, that's awesome. I actually started doing paranormal. We come from a long line of people who do paranormal, and it's funny because I started in the '90s when I was 13 and 14, when people were really not into that at all, and I was more or less crazy. And my mother is a parapsychologist, and so she was. It was a strange house to live in to begin with, and we here, we always said we were not going to raise our kids like that, basically.
Yeah.
And as Courtney here got older, she just became more interested, reaching out to my mom, asking her more questions. And, it got to the point where she's like, all right, I want to start doing investigations. And I was like, honey, I did all this. I was like, we're like, I don't know if your mom's ready for that. And,
right.
But she agreed. She's like, all right, well, if this is the way it's going to be, this is the way it's going to be. And so when we went out back in the day, I had a camcorder, and a recorder, an audio recorder. And if I was lucky, I had a friend to take pictures. That was it,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I
Um,
mean, pretty much, I mean, well, not today. I mean, people are getting into it. Say if somebody's getting into it today, they're going out on Amazon and buying everything they see on TV, which we didn't have back then. Even in the mid 2000s, you were lucky to come across a K2.
yeah.
But yeah, in the 90s, I wasn't doing paranormal in the 90s. I was always interested in it. Not really too many shows were out back then. There's nothing like there is now. So it wasn't like, as huge as it is now. And I think that's what piqued my interest in the early 2000s, where all the shows like Ghost Hunters and things like that coming out. And I totally got into paranormal by accident. A lot of people don't know that. It was a complete accident for me. I grew up in a haunted house as a child, but I don't remember it because I was too young. I was only like, when we moved out of there, I think I was 6. I just remember the stories, my parents would tell me and my grandparents. And in 2005, 2006, I actually got invited to an investigation, a local investigation. It was something free. I got tickets for it. I think my mom won the tickets. And I didn't know what to expect. I went, and I actually had my first experience where I saw an actual half-body apparition. I didn't even tell anybody.
Oh wow.
I thought they would think I was crazy. But I knew when I left there that night, it was only like a 3-hour investigation, that when I left there that night, that I wanted to do this in some aspect. I got hooked. I mean, it pulled me in, and I started doing it, just on a small level, local places, and it grew. I met my wife, we were dating at the time, and she loved it, and she wanted to do it, so we started doing it. And then I started my own team in 2011, Breaking Paranormal, and that's when I really got more serious into it and started traveling and doing a lot of stuff on the East Coast, up and down the coast, and on my own dime, of course, like everybody does.
Right.
And then I had to pull back a little bit because I was spending so much money on it with the traveling and everything. And so that's why I got into podcast and live streams, because I could do it from my house and I could still stay connected with the paranormal community. And I made a lot of great friends over the years, man, because of that. Branching out like that, and that's where I'm here. Why I'm where I'm at now.
Yeah. What was it like when you found out you were selected for the show?
It was very surreal because I don't even really know how I got selected for the show, because I actually just got a phone call one night. Somehow they got a hold of my bio, and they called me and were like, "Hey, we want to interview you for a paranormal show." And at that point, we didn't know it was Ghost Hunters. So I was like, "Okay, yeah, it sounds pretty cool. It's whatever I got to do." And did a lot of Skype interviews and things of that nature. And next thing I know, I'm getting flown out to L.A. and sitting in Pilgrim Group Media, Liongate Films, in front of executive producers, and they're questioning me, and I'm taking all kinds of tests, and there's a lot goes into it. People don't realize I was out there for 2 days taking tests.
Wow.
And talking to psychiatrists and psychologists and things of that nature. Oh yeah, there's a lot. And it's like going for a mortgage. Anybody knows what for a mortgage, it's like that. And they hire a company to go into your social media accounts, and they go back to the beginning of your social media, and they look at everything. It takes a couple of weeks for them to do it all. And I remember that, I was kind of sitting around waiting to hear from them, and they would always contact me almost every day. Some producer or somebody worked for the company would contact me, ask me something else. Can I send this? Can I send that? And one day I just got a phone call. I'll never forget. It was like a Monday afternoon, about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They're like, "Hey, you got the job." I was like, "Oh, cool." So I'm thinking I'm going to go out in a couple months. Oh, no, this is a Monday afternoon. You start Sunday. We're flying you out Sunday. I had less than a week.
Wow.
And I hit the ground running.
God.
I got to meet the rest of the team when we got to Florida, and been doing it ever since, man. Loving every moment of it.
Yeah.
Man, that's hectic.
Yeah, it's run and gun, man. When you're on, people don't realize when you're filming these shows. I can't speak for the rest of the shows. I can only speak for Ghost Hunters, but it's a big production. It's huge. It's a huge production. I mean, you're talking, including the team, which is six of us, not including Grant. There's like 22, 23 people on the road. So yeah, it's a big move. That's a lot of moving parts, and we all live in different parts of the country. You know, they're from everywhere from California to New Jersey. That's where we live, and so it's a lot of moving parts when we do an episode. And it's we work 12 and 16-hour days. If we work a 10-hour day, that's a short day for us. We're like, oh my god, 10 hours, that's it. So it's a lot. As soon as we hit the ground, it's investigation time, and we go right into investigation mode, and then we start interviewing people and interviewing the client, the eyewitnesses, and then we jump into the actual investigations. So it's a lot of running and gunning, yeah, but it's fun. It's a lot of work, but it's fun.
Wow. So, Courtney, I know you have a couple questions you had lined up, and I don't want to take your time away. So
I think one of more of the interesting question that I want to ask is have you ever been perhaps touched or maybe scratched by anything paranormal?
Yeah, I've been touched. I've been knocked down to the floor. I've never been scratched though, which is odd. Not that I know of. But I've actually, I actually on an investigation in Kentucky, not on the show, because this is before the show, I actually got thrown on the floor by something, and I still don't know what it was to this day. I'm 220 pounds, and it threw me on the floor like I was a rag doll. And but on the show, I mean, we've been touched, like we thought we've been touched. Like you'll feel like a touch on the shoulder or on your back.
Right.
But nothing like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. And we did see you just you guys were in Alaska.
Oh, yeah.
And you got rushed by something.
Yeah, that was insane because I mean people don't realize that when they're watching it, it was actually that was on my body cam, and you're seeing it IR, so it looks like it's lit up, but it was pitch black in there. Like if that IR wasn't I can't see anything. I couldn't see it 6 inches in front of my face, and all I remember is this dark mass that was darker than the dark, and you could hear it running down the hall like boom, 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 and it was coming at me. And at that point, I didn't know if it was a person, an animal. I didn't know what it was. For all I knew, it could have been a bear. And it just boom, boom, boom down the hallway. And I just remember just jolting out of the way. And thank God I had the body cam on because that's what actually captured the apparition twice. And the strange thing is when you see it on the body cam, it comes from the left-hand side. What I actually saw looked like it was directly in front of me coming from the right. And it's so weird. I don't know if it's something to do with your vision or whatever it was, but it was so strange. And at one point, people don't realize when it looked at me the first time, it was literally about 8 to 10 inches from my face where that body cam was. It actually, there's a corner right there, and I was on that corner, and it came out just like this the first time, right in front of me. And it built it back. And then about 2 or 3 feet down, it came back out again. That was very surreal. And we really honestly didn't know we captured that until we went back and reviewed the footage. And we were like, oh my God, we captured that. And we captured some really cool EVPs at the same time saying, oh, that when you hear it running toward me, you hear the footsteps, you hear, and it's running towards me. It's there's EVP that says, that's me, that's me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was crazy. It was a great experience. One of my favorite experiences ever. Yeah. Loved it.
Yeah, I thought that was we were talking about that when we watched the episode because I thought it was interesting that it was saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it's kind of like it was saying hello, I'm here, that's me, I'm here.
It's strange because I mean it was scary. Believe me, that top floor of that building took on a whole different presence than the rest of the building. The rest of the building was very creepy as well. Don't get me wrong. But that top floor was the attic, and there's rooms up there. People used to stay there, and it just felt like you were kind of you're trespassing on somebody's territory. somebody's, it was like you weren't welcome in their house. But at the same
Right.
time, you get an EVP like, hey, it's me. Hey, they can actually see me or hear me.
Yeah.
And whoever's there is probably not used to anybody, making contact with it, because no one's ever investigated up there. There's never been a paranormal team ever in Haines, Alaska. If you knew what it took us to get there, I mean, it was like, I think it was a 12-hour flight from me and Mustafa, and a 4-hour boat ride. We had to fly from he flew from Camden, New Jersey. I flew from Philadelphia, and we landed in Seattle, and then we had to go from Seattle to Juneau, Alaska.
Wow.
And then there was a 4-hour boat ride from Juneau to the location, and that was insane, because people don't realize we actually got stuck out there for 2 extra days.
Oh, wow.
The weather was so bad. We tried to get back. We had to charter our own ship, because no ships go out there that time of year. Like, they refuse to go out there. Like, they don't get, like, all their stuff that's on, where they live in the outpost, it's all brought in beforehand, and they live off of it for like 3 months. Like, nothing goes from January to March. So we chartered our own ship, and when we tried to go back a week later, we were out there for like 7 or 8 days. We got about an hour to the boat ride, and we were getting anywhere from 12 to 15-foot waves coming over the boat. So the captain, about an hour into it, he's like, everybody sit down. That's all we heard on the loudspeaker. And he did a U-turn right in the middle of the ocean. He turned that, like, it's like a 140-foot ship. He just turned it on a dime. And we went back, and they got the captain and the crew got stuck there too. They weren't from there, so everybody had to stay back for like an extra 2 days almost.
Wow, I think when we see it, you're capturing 43 minutes typically, right? Show commercial, so that's all you got, and we don't you don't see all the stuff that's actually going on around.
Yeah.
So much goes into it, guy. I mean, it's just, there's so much stuff that we can't show because we don't have time. They can make our episodes 5 hours long, and you probably still wouldn't see everything. It's just, we only take the best of what we have and we put it in the episode. And that comes to our evidence too. I mean, there's so much evidence we actually throw out, because if there's any shadow of a doubt, we throw it out. Simple as that. If not everybody on the team agrees with something, it's like, okay, it's gone. Bye. And we showed that when we were in Fort Stanton. We caught that, me and Mustafa caught that on the thermal camera, that shadow anomaly down the hallway. It looked like a person standing there. Well, my thing was, I was on the fence about it, because, it was creepy in the moment, because you're at the end of this hallway and you're seeing this figure stand there, which is about 60, 70 feet away from you. And every time you get closer, it's getting closer to you. But the thing was, the reason we threw it out is because at the very end of that hallway, there's a room, and there's a bunch of windows that goes across it. And we didn't know, maybe a reflection from the window was making that happen. So it's something we like, okay, we're going to show it, but we're going to show you also how it can be a false positive. And that's what we did with it. To this day, we're not sure if it was an entity or if it was some kind of reflection coming from the window that was at the end of the hall in that room. So, we kind of leave it up to the viewer. Hey, you make up what you want to make of it.
And we had a question come in, and it's kind of funny because you brought up like determining what's real, what's not, and we were actually starting to look into a case here. Somebody had reached out to us, and after about they told us what was happening at the house, and we said we'd probably have to come out there and everything, but when we started talking about going out there, they were like, well, how many people are coming with you? How many cameras, and all this stuff. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, what are you talking about? Like, we're, like, this isn't a TV show. Like,
Right.
So, like, and then as soon as I was basically like, we're not going to be filming this, documenting your life for the first meeting to determine this. I'm like, we're coming out to literally check to see if this is accurate. And they're like, forget it.
That's the ones you got to watch out for. Yeah, there are people out there, unfortunately, who just want their house or their business on TV to to boost up, people coming there and stuff of that nature. It doesn't always happen, but it does happen. It's the nature of the business.
So, now when you guys were at the fort, you had to go into the church, and we're going to get into areas Courtney loves the best, which is skinwalkers. This is, she's huge on these things. And you mentioned that, as you were walking towards it, was you and Mustafa, and you said, what they're describing sounds to me like a skinwalker.
Yeah.
Is that something that, you've had to think about in the past, or,
I mean, I've come across cases similar to that,
mm-hmm.
but when you get out west in the Midwest and out like where we were in New Mexico, it's a big thing out there. I mean, with the Native American tribes, with we were on which was an Apache reservation,
right,
which was surrounding Fort Stanton, out there, and it was a big, Mescalero and Apache area. It still is. I mean, when you go there and you're staying in that area, that's all pretty much is out there. They're Native Americans, and they still live there. So it's a big thing with them, and you have to respect that, because the people who are seeing this weren't just like people, paranormal investigators. These were people who were visiting the fort like a Boy Scout troop. Saw it. There's been government officials, park rangers, things of that nature have come in contact with whatever this thing is. Now, I don't know, I can't remember if we mentioned on the episode, but there's some Native Americans that come out there, and I'm not sure if I know Mescalero and Apache are really similar. They're like kind of like if I'm not mistaken, they're kind of like a branch off of the Apache. And we're not sure which ones it is, but they come out there once or twice a year to that fort, and they do right in front of that chapel. In between the chapel and the hospital, they do a cleansing type thing out there, and no one knows what they're doing. They just show up and they do it randomly, and no one questions it either.
Yeah.
So it's like, what are they making something come, or are they trying to ward something off? We don't know, and I'm not going to say I believe in either way, but people are seeing this thing, and it's pretty serious to them. And that's why when we went in that chapel, it was, it was, your head was on a swivel, because we're hearing all kinds of stuff. At one point, it sounded like something was walking on the roof.
Yeah.
And whatever it was sounded like it was big. And it was like you could hear like banging on the roof. Now, there was a tree, but the tree is probably about 40 or 50 feet away from the actual building. So it wasn't the branches on the tree. And we never figured out what it was. And we never caught anything, as far as a skinwalker or anything like that of that nature. But I think we've all said it on the team. We want to go back really bad, because there's so much there that we weren't able to investigate, because that property is huge. I mean, there's even a prison there in the back that's about a half to 3/4 mile back on the property. That's actually a closed prison that shut down like 5 years ago. And still, like, the fences are out there. The phones still work. We actually walked up to it, picked up the phone on the front gate, and it actually rang into the building. You can hear it ring into the prison. But there's nobody there. It's so surreal and strange. So we want to go back really bad, all of us do, because we had such great experiences there. And it was such a good time. And there's so much. It's literally like 50 miles from Roswell, which is crazy. There's we were seeing weird lights in the sky when we were out there in the desert at night. All kinds of weird noises. Probably coyotes. There's a lot of coyotes out there, but we were getting all kinds of strange things happening.
Yeah, I'm more the UFO person. So when like I said, I started doing this when I was too young, but we called it Night Watch, and that was like part of the gig. Is we would actually be in a cemetery, looking up at the sky, and stuff like that, because it was going to give, one or the other was going to give us something, right? And
Right.
You're 13 to 14 years old, you don't know, but you're going to go for it. So totally agree. Like that, there's something, interesting. It's like Skinwalker Ranch, right? You have this, what is really going on? Is it, they have people out there they don't know. I know that's a place that you probably guys are dying to get to at some point.
Oh yeah, we were actually. They were talking about sending us there, and I think the real reason they didn't send us there was because they were filming Skinwalker Ranch at the same time. We actually had chance. We met those guys at AlienCon. Really nice guys over there on History Channel, and they're doing a great job with their show. I love their show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I try to catch it every time it comes on, but they're doing a really good job. You know, and if you ever watched, there's an actual documentary that was done probably about 5 or 6 years ago.
Yep.
I think Bigelow still owned it at that point. And there's an amazing documentary on it. And it's so fascinating that the government was out there under the Bigelow umbrella doing these experiments, trying to find out. And you know, the government is trying to figure out what's going on out there. Something's going on out there.
Oh yeah.
And, yeah. It's so fascinating to me. I love that. I love that type of stuff. You know, there's reports of these dire wolves, you know, Sasquatch, UFOs, entities, people being hurt, these strange lights. God, it's like the Mecca. It's like everything balled into one ranch. It's amazing.
Right.
It's funny because we did a podcast, our first podcast. It was called Little Compton in Rhode Island, and it's the whole area has the same things going on. They have these weird lights in the sky. They hear loud cracking noises in the sky. I actually was showing like Courtney papers from the early 1800s from the town saying they thought another town was on fire. Like all
Right.
these weird things in this one area, and to this day, nobody like really talks about it, or like why is this place having all these challenges? You know?
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned Rhode Island because we were actually in Connecticut investigating, shooting the show when that comet came by that night last year. And we were all outside and we're just sitting there and we're talking, getting ready to go into investigation. I think we just got done eating. It was like, it just got dark. And we remember, all I remember, we all were like, all of a sudden, like, what the heck? And all of a sudden you see this ball of fire come across the sky, man. And it looked like it almost went over top of the house we were at and kept going. And then all of a sudden we hear car alarms going off, police, helicopters, like everything. I think everybody was just flipping out, like, what the hell is that thing? And then we watched the news the next day, and that was that big comet that almost, that kind of, it looked really close, but I think it was literally like 20,000 miles away from Earth, but it was so huge, it looked like it was going to hit. It was crazy.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, you guys don't remember that? It was just like last summer.
I remember about
like,
the comet, but I don't think
Yeah.
where we live it was as noticeable. Probably.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, we heard about it, but we didn't see it.
It was huge. I mean, you had to be outside. It was so fast. I mean, it was literally just ball of fire just come across the sky, and it was like, you're like, what? You thought it was Armageddon. It was like over. Like, oh my God, what is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's this is where I always say, like, what part of what's going on out there is, where do we draw the line with the paranormal and ghosts, and where do we draw the line in paranormal, like UFOs, like where and this mix of the skinwalker, like where are all these pieces and how are they coming together, because they seem to be somehow coming together. So to me it's a pretty fascinating item.
And when it comes to stuff like that, so it kind of comes into the interdimensional type things. You start thinking in that aspect. Are they all connected in some way? When we leave this body of ours, where do we go? Do we go to another dimension? And you start thinking like that. What are these things we're seeing? What are these UFOs? These skinwalkers, Sasquatch? How come we can't capture one or find a dead one or whatever? And you start to wonder, like, okay, is there different dimensions? Are these things coming through dimensions and going back? It's just like, I go back to Skinwalker Ranch. There's a story of the rancher who lived there in the 90s what he described as a wolf, but that was 3 times the size of a regular wolf. And he described it as a dire wolf that died off, 10, 15,000 years ago. And when he said it attacked the calf or the cow, he shot it several times, with a large caliber rifle, and it took off, and they followed it, and when they followed the tracks ended in like a hill, like it ran into this hill and was gone. So you're like, was it interdimensional? Was it something like,
Right.
was it something from 15,000 years ago that somehow came into our world now and was able to go back to its time? You're like, what the hell is going on? And
Right.
hopefully someday we'll get there. With some of the stuff we're bringing in on the show, some of the new equipment that people have never seen before, like the MCCD camera, which people don't realize that camera's been around for 40 years. It was used by the military and NASA before we got our hands on it. And now we're implementing it into paranormal because, thank God, Brandon had a friend who had one who's a scientist, and he's interested in the paranormal, but he wanted to see how it would work. So he said, who better to give it to than Ghost Hunters? So he gave it to Ghost Hunters, and Brandon brought it out. And we were all kind of on the fence about it at first. We're like, is this going to work? Is it not going to work? We started learning more about it, and Brandon started explaining the photon events and some of his theories. Like, okay, so let's try it. And literally the first time they tried it is when they caught this apparition.
Yeah.
And it was mind blowing. And there's times you use it, you don't capture anything, which is great because that's what you want. But the thing was, when you got that camera set up and you have an IR camera set up and a thermal camera set up, and the only thing you're capturing this entity on are these light anomalies are on the EMCCD, you got to question, hey, what is this? Is this something dimensional, or why aren't these other cameras picking up? Why aren't we seeing it with our own eyes?
Right.
Yeah, those are definitely some interesting things. And when you talk interdimensional, when we were watching the show again, going back to Alaska, when it was saying it's me, I was somewhat questioning to my wife and Courtney and our other kids is that Daryl saying it's me? Did he go back there at another time? And is that him hearing himself, or is that something coming at him? I'm like, because.
Well, it's funny you say that. There's an EVP that was captured that they didn't use in the show. And check this out. I mentioned this on a podcast the other day. It's the first time I mentioned it. There's an EVP that happens probably about 3 or 4 minutes before that. I was getting this weird feeling in my back, like in my lower back. And I'm like, I go to him and stop, Steve, man, my lower back feels weird. And then there's an EVP before me saying that, about 10 seconds before that, saying my lower back feels weird. An EVP. And yeah, 10 seconds before I said it.
Interesting.
It's so weird you said that.
Yeah. So that's why. So I questioned whether or not, is he going back there again in the future, or something like that. I go, I'll be interested to watch how this plays out because on that particular one, because it'll be interesting to see how that works. But because I tell people all the time that sometimes we hear something, and it's today we call it, when I was younger we called it an echo. Today it's residual or what have you. Mm-hmm. But we hear it and we're thinking something's going on, but the reality is that it's happened a long time ago, or it's something that's coming, right? And and the best way I explain it is, a kid, I can't count the number of times I could have sworn I heard my wife call my name, right? Mm-hmm. And, everybody's had that, or we hear our name called, nobody's looking for us. But there's that, we don't think anything of it or anything of that nature. We just brush it off. But potentially, it really could be a residual or something coming in, so it's kind of a different viewpoint.
Yeah, like an echo in time. It's so weird to think about. Yeah, I mean, it's almost like a glitch. Mm-hmm. Like if you're watching a movie and there's a glitch.
Yeah.
It's like the world just glitches a little bit. Life glitches, and it picks something up we said a week ago, or it's so there's so many questions. There really is, and and that's the thing. With investigating, being a paranormal investigator, it's one thing to be a ghost hunter and want to go out and get thrills and everything. That's great, go for it. But when you really start investigating it and you really start putting time into it and documenting things, and trying to recreate them is when you're starting to use. You see these almost like a thread of
Right.
how it's playing itself out, and hopefully someday we're to the point, in this field where we can, put it all together. It's like having a puzzle that's 100 pieces, and you're missing that, one or two pieces. What the hell happened to them, and hopefully someday we find them. And we were able to connect all these dots.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm really gonna have to. That's crazy that you heard about your lower back, because that is.
So I understand why they didn't put it in the show. With editing and everything, it didn't really match up with everything else going on. But it was something that was so weird that actually Mustafa captured it. He's listened back on audio. It was me saying, literally, I said, you hear this thing, something say, my lower back's hurting. And then you hear me say, like 10 seconds later, man, my lower back is hurting. It was so weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is weird.
All right, Courtney. So what other questions do you have?
All right.
You got a list.
So since we're on the topic of how you guys were in Alaska, one question is like, how cold was it there? Because you guys said that you got stuck there for like 2 extra days. Like Alaska's pretty cold. It was snowing.
Yeah.
So,
It was. The crazy thing is, Alaska wasn't the coldest place we were. Alaska was cold. It was. I think the warmest day there was probably about 30, 32. When we were actually, the first night we investigated, it snowed 17 inches.
oh my goodness.
It was probably anywhere from the high teens to the mid 20s most of the time we were there. But Galena, Illinois was the coldest we were. It was 6 below.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, when we were in Illinois filming, it was I've never been that cold my entire life. I was like, this is insane. It was just miserable cold. You could not get warm. No.
Yeah, we don't like being cold at all, do we, Courtney?
Yeah, I'm not a big person on being cold.
Yeah.
I love hot.
Yeah.
Just keep it hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, when you were out there, that's when you saw the blue light, if I recall correctly.
Yeah. That was so crazy. It just happened to be at the right place, at the right time. And the crazy thing is, they show on the show that actually on the other side of the building, we had Brian was over there and a couple of our producers, and they actually saw it too. We just happened to see it first. Like, we all saw it at the same time, but we happened to be closer to the door. Mustafa and I and our camera op was standing there, and I'm the first one who looked up, and I'm like, and I hit Mustafa, like, dude, what's that? And he looks up, he sees it, the camera guy sees it, and the camera guy, he's like flipping out. He's like, what is that? And at first, it's a blue light, and you're like, okay. First thing you think of, okay, there's somebody in the building. There's somebody up there with a flashlight. And you start thinking, a blue flashlight. No. And like, this is as you're running up there. And literally, from the time it happened, from the time we got to the top, that floor, it was probably only 15 to 20 seconds passed. And got up there, and there's nothing. There's nobody in the building. The building is completely empty. There's no power up there. The only place there's power is in the basement. And thank God we had the MCCD in that room because of what the reports were saying of this light in the building. And we captured it. And it really looked like, when I saw it, it just looked like the whole upstairs lit up. I mean, it was just like this bright, I can't explain the light it looked like. And when you see it on the MCCD, you see like this, almost a pillar of light come down, like something opened, like a doorway opened, and it just came down, and it flickered, and it did it for a second, and it was gone. It was so weird.
Have you seen the documentary The House in Between?
Yeah, I'm good friends with Brad. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So they talk about a blue light. She's the owner. I don't want to go into detail for those. I don't want to wreck it for people. But I also have seen a long time ago, but a blue light, and I still couldn't tell you what it is to this day. Like, I don't know. I don't have a thought on what it was.
Yeah, it's strange.
Yeah.
We've seen it with our own eyes a couple times in different locations. But it's really funny you mentioned The House in Between, because our DP Kendall, he's actually the producer of House in Between.
Oh, okay.
We were. It's kind of a crossover. We're good friends with all those guys. We actually saw. We were in Louisiana, and this was last season we were filming, and Brandon, Grant, and myself all saw a room light up. It, unfortunately, and captured on camera, and we saw the room light up, and we saw a figure walk out of the light and walk back into the light, and the light went away. We all
like lighted up are always like the weirdest, or like the most like intense, just kind of like, what's going on here? Like I can't explain this. Like what just happened?
Yeah, it was so weird. We were hearing all these noises, and all our data recorders were going off, the tri-field meters were going off, and it was Brandon, Mustafa, Grant, and myself. We were all in the room. Mustafa didn't see it because he was in the far corner, but me, the three of us were closer to the doorway, and there's another room to the left, and the whole room lit up. It did like this weird, I don't know, it kind of like crossed over lighting, and this figure walked out of it, but you couldn't see the top half of it. It looked like it had a dress on, walked to the right, and then kind of went back to the left into the light, and the light went away. And we all saw it. We're like, what? And we were like, the first thing we said to each other is, don't anybody tell the other person what we just saw. Like, we all said, okay, we saw something, we're not going to tell each other what we just saw. And then all three of us went in the hallway single and talked to Mustafa and one of the producers and explained exactly what we saw to the producer and Mustafa. And it all matched up. We all saw the same thing, which is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, if there's more than one person who sees it, like you can't like say that this isn't real, like, because more than one person saw it. It's not like that you can make something up like that.
No, it was so fast. It happened so fast, and the crazy thing, we were, all our data recorders were going off, our tri-field meters were going off at the same time when this happened. Right before it happened, we were getting all these weird cold spots in the room, and we were in Louisiana. I think it was August. It was like 110 degrees outside, and when you feel a cold spot, you feel a cold spot. This house
Right.
this house is 200 years old. Didn't have an air conditioner in it, and it wasn't anything like that, so it wasn't a vent. And and you feel these weird cold spots where the hair on your arm starts raising up, and you're putting your hand through it, and you're like, actually you can feel like a 10 or 15 degree difference between going through it. And then you put the data recorder on there, and the data recorder starts going off. You're getting pressure spikes, you're getting temperature increase and decrease at the same time, and then you see this room just light up, and it all happened within like 2 or 3 minutes. It was crazy. Yeah.
Man, that's those are always the probably to me those are the creepiest things because of where was it, where'd it go, how to do that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And then so I'm probably not always for the thrill, and I'm trying to figure out like, was there lightning in the area? Like, what could have caused such a massive amount in this one spot to happen to begin with, right? Like you need a huge energy spike.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. Now, this week you guys were at I think was it Stratton Army Base?
Window.
Yeah. And you were in the hangars. Have you now I know the previous Ghost Hunters, they had done Lakehurst. Have you thought about going out to Lakehurst?
It's possible. I mean, it's really kind of not. It's not our decision on where we're going to go. Being at Wendover was such an honor being there because I mean that's where the atomic bomb was launched from on the Enola Gay, and just being there in Wendover is not really well known. It was such a top secret base during its day, and you had to have top secret security clearance to even be there, and then you had to have more security clearance on top of that just to get into the hangar. So it was very well protected, and if you're anybody's ever been there, it's like 2.5 hour drive from Salt Lake City to there, and there's nothing. It's just desert in Salt Lake. You drive forever till you come to like a set of mountains, and then you go through this mountain pass, and then you're there. It's so surreal. There's a little small town there now, and it's kind of right on the Nevada border. It's so funny being there because you're going from our hotel we were staying in. if I would walk from one side of my room to the next, my time would change. I would go from mountain time to Pacific time. It was so crazy. That's how you're right on the line there. And but it was so surreal being there and just seeing, this place. We were actually, they didn't show it in the episode, but there's a small building there, and that's where they actually stored the blueprints. There's these big safes in the ground, and that's where they actually stored the blueprints for the atomic bomb. Like this, you had to go in the safe and come up, and they would open it up, they take the prints out, they would build whatever they had to do, they put the prints back, and it was like well guarded, and it's insane, man.
Yeah.
So it was so amazing to be a part of that kind of, that part of history being there.
That's, yeah. I mean, it's definitely. We were talking about that, like how that had to be probably one of the most fascinating. But again, how people would feel like their mission had not been completed, or staying there, and wanting to be there. In some cases, I would imagine. They feel they're protecting a secret.
Yeah, I mean, and they're still doing like the military comes in and out of there, and they do like there's special forces that come in there and train and stuff. There's a big in the desert, where we are. They launch from there and they do like maneuvers out there, and there's a missile range where they test missiles and firing range and things like that. Still out there to this day, where they go out and they train. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you do get the chance to go to Lakers, even on your own, you should absolutely go. The loud hangar noise that everybody had heard, it was like this loud bang. And I thought that was interesting. I had to spend some time out at Lakehurst, and I was in the Hindenburg hangar for work. So,
oh, nice.
And well, I didn't know what it was when I first got there. They told me to go in that door, kind of a thing. And we were in there usually like at 5:30 in the morning. So it's probably our second or third day. We're there. We go in at 5 a.m. It's pitch black. It's October. And we hear those same loud bangs. And it sounds like somebody running literally across this platform there, which nobody could be at. And the one of the guys I work with, I'm like, we should go check that out because we're going to be here a while. We should go look. And he's like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going outside. He's like, you go find out what that was. And so we didn't know at the time. So when some of the people came in, we're like, man, we've been getting some weird noises and like odd sounds. And they're like, well, this place is like it's totally haunted. And I'm like, that'd been nice to know, before.
Oh no, that's in Jersey, right?
Yeah, Lakehurst, in Jersey.
Yeah, not far from there. I would love to check that out, and like Wright Patterson would be cool too.
Yeah. Another area that you might like is Shamokin, Pennsylvania. We were actually starting a podcast on it, and I had to stop because we were investigating one house. And what was interesting was the house next door, every 5 years somebody's dying in it from unknown causes. And I'm going back to the first one was 1910. So 1910, and I stopped at 1975. And every 5 years, someone's just in this one house.
That's true.
Yeah. And, I was telling my wife, I'm like, are we morally obligated to go to the new owner? Because it is a new owner. And, mention, like, people don't make it here. Something's wrong.
Yeah.
Something's going on here.
Like, every 5 years, the owner dies or, like, someone dies.
Yeah.
I think we should tell them.
Yeah, I think I probably would have.
Yeah, and it's all the homes in this area. Like I said, we were researching it, but all the homes are rented. But this one is actually it can't stay. They can't keep a renter, so it keeps flipping ownership. But when we were looking at it, I'm like, this has got to be a joke. Like this has got to be wrong. But I felt bad because like by the time I got to like 1945. It would say like Mr. Johnson just bought this house, and I'm like, poor Mr. Johnson, and I looked down, a couple years later, and it was him, his wife, or his child, right? One of them perished, and a new owner is coming in, and it's like you could just watch, like you're watching this history, like you already know it's going to happen, but again, I read old papers because I love research, and you know what's going to happen. These people just have no clue, kind of a thing. It's really weird.
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah. Well, you want to keep the streak going, so.
Yeah, so we were talking about, are we morally obligated to go there and say something to these people, or are they going to think we're nuts?
Yeah.
So, Courtney, I know you had a couple more questions. I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep cutting you off, so go ahead.
All right, sorry. But going back to like how you were talking about the hangar in New Jersey, like how that guy just completely refused to go in. It's like, nope, go ahead. Like
Yeah.
I always find that that's like the funniest part of paranormal investigations is when someone actually gets scared to go into like a haunted place and they're like, yep, that place is haunted, and the audience is like, I believe that guy. I absolutely believe him.
Yeah.
I feel like that's like one of the best parts. Or especially when the cameraman gets scared or like he starts talking, because you absolutely know that the cameraman is going to be like, nope.
Yeah, we've had that happen quite a bit on season 2. The camera guys. I mean, a lot of our camera guys, except for Kendall. Kendall's kind of like an investigator. He's been on Ghost Hunters since like 2004. He was on the old show, and now he's the director of photography for us. And he's had paranormal experiences, but our other camera ops, they really haven't had any experiences until they started investigating with us. And they've become from skeptics to true believers. And we've had producers too who like, I don't believe in this stuff. And I've seen producers run out of buildings.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any building that you wouldn't go back to? Like you were spooked enough where, like, nah, I'm not doing that again.
No, not really. I'm very intrigued by even the ones that that have that creep factor and you just don't feel right in them. I'm very intrigued by them, and I just want to keep going back. There's not one that I would not go back to. Yeah.
Wow.
That's good.
Yeah. No, I mean, because I've known a lot of people who like not going back. That been there, done that.
No, there's locations I've done off the show that I probably wouldn't go back to. But yeah, as far on the show, no, I love all the locations we've been to, and I don't know if it's our approach or whatever to it, and it just makes it a little bit easier. There is one location that we did in season 1, and you really didn't see a whole lot of it. I actually stayed. It was the Landals Mohegan Castle, and I actually stayed in like a shanty or a hut or whatever you want to call it that was off the property. It was on the property, but it was away from the castle. And it was away from everybody else, and it was a very active building. It was the original house to the property, and it got to the third night there. I couldn't even sleep anymore. I actually slept in my SUV because it was just too active. I couldn't sleep. Every time you fall asleep, something would wake you up, like on purpose. Yeah, and we even captured a little girl audibly talking to me in the room, like loud as day. She said hello to me. Hello, like loud as day. We caught it on camera. It was crazy. Wow. Yeah, so it's like it wasn't that I was scared of it. It's just by the third day, my sleep deprivation was through the roof. I was like, I was seeing things, hearing things. I was like, I gotta get some sleep. And I finally just crawled in the back of my SUV and locked everything up and just slept like a baby, man, for like 8 hours. I was so tired. But yeah, that's probably the one location the one place I probably wouldn't want to spend a night in again. Yeah, absolutely.
Was that the one in Ohio?
Like do another investigation.
Yeah.
Yep. Is that the one in Ohio?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so they were worried about fire, if I recall. The place burnt, and then they were having issues with the stove being left on again.
Yeah, the original restaurant burnt down back in like 2009, I believe it was, or 2008, and there had all kinds of weird things happen around there with these brand new fire alarms, the smoke detectors going off all the time, and the fire company. And that place is pretty far away from the nearest town. Like it's on a mountain. So when the fire company comes, it has to like drive like 20 minutes to get up to the top of the mountain.
Oh wow!
And they were getting pissed. Like the fire chief was getting pissed. He was like, "This has got to stop." So we actually hired a professional team to come in. They were smoke alarm installers, and they test like fire systems and stuff. They installed them, and we had them test everything. They're like, we can't figure out why this is going off. This is a brand new alarm system, smoke alarm system in the buildings. And we had the one building, the restaurant. One night we went in there, the pilot lights. There's 4 pilot lights, and I think 3 of them, if I remember correctly, were out. So it was just pumping gas into the building. And then in the one room, the landlord's room, which is in the castle itself, we Brandon and Mustafa walked in there, and it was I think the temperature was like 108 degrees in the room.
Oh,
the fireplace was on, and the heater was turned all the way up, and it was literally unbearable. And like, they investigated in there for about a half hour, 45 minutes. They left, and then me and Kristen went in there, and we had the doors open and everything, and it still was like 90 degrees in that room because everything was in. God knows how long the fireplace is on. It was summer. It was like June, or no, it was June when we were there, so it was warm. And the fireplace shouldn't have been on. The heater shouldn't have been turned all the way up. And we still can't figure out why that was happening. So yeah, I mean, that's what it kind of led to. We were like, hey, you need to keep an eye on this stuff, and you're going to have another fire if you don't. So not sure what happened there. And that was one of the original things that happened to the church that was there back in the 1800s. Right. There was a church on that property, I believe, in a Lutheran church, and supposedly the reverend or the minister who was the head of the Lutheran church was a very nice person. And the church actually burnt down. Now, they expected that it was some of the members burn it down because of just the way he was. He wasn't a very nice person. So the church that was actually on that property where the capsule stands now was burnt down. So we're wondering if it has some kind of linkage to that. We're not sure.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that you never build on burnt, where if you can't prove what caused the fire, don't rebuild there. And one thing that we and Courtney were talking about yesterday was the, you ever notice that the houses you go into always have these creepy dolls?
Yeah.
Right?
We've been a couple like that.
Well, why do they all have creepy dolls? Like, that's one of my first things is first, before you get rid of those, and then call me, because I'm a firm believer that something's going on with the dolls.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I understand that some people collect them, but man, they're just so creepy. Like,
yeah.
And like, there are so many like horror movies even based off of like creepy dolls like coming to life, and I'm just like, have you seen these movies?
Yeah.
Have you watched these movies? And then like, people have also caught like dolls on tape like moving around, and like, if you believe in paranormal, like, that is something that you should just get rid of it, just toss it out. You don't need it.
Yeah.
We've come across some really creepy ones, that's for sure.
When I was younger, so I've met the Warrens. I don't know if you know there, but from The Conjuring and Annabelle.
Mm-hmm.
So I had the opportunity to meet them in the early '90s and get to speak with them and go with them to a location. And this was before anybody ever heard of Annabelle or anything like that. But they were describing it, and from that day forward, I think I was 15 the first time. That day forward, I despised Raggedy Ann dolls. I don't like them. I don't like being around them. I don't allow them near my house. But when you hear, when we're watching the movie, obviously Annabelle is a different animal or beast altogether. But when you hear the Warrens and people like that described to you, it's way, way different than when a movie. As I've told Courtney, it's some creepy stuff, and like, I choose not to be around anything that they told me like a story about, because I'm out.
I hear you. Yeah, I don't like haunted objects. Nah.
Yeah.
I don't do it.
Yeah. And I find there are quite a few, like I've told people when they will call us like, here, I'm having these issues all of a sudden, and I'm like, well, what'd you bring in? Do you collect antiques? Get rid of the last 5. It's probably the issue. And that's always been my personal opinion. That's be the first thing I would do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely.
But.
Yeah.
Well, I know we're hitting up the top of the hour. Courtney, do you have any other questions that you wanted to get out?
I think I'm good. We've had a pretty nice chat here.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah,
and for those who are
good time,
watching,
guys.
good.
Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah, I mean for everybody watching too, if you want to jump over to Paranormal Warehouse, we have a live investigation starting, I believe, in like 10 minutes. And Paranormal 101 is going to be doing like a live talk and chat with the people who are reviewing the actual investigation for any questions or anything answers you need. We'll be on there. It'll be Brandon, myself, and Mike from Midnight Paranormal, and a couple other people. We'll all be going in and out, for a few hours, and just answering questions. If you guys have anything you see while they're investigating, let us know, and we'll try to figure it out for you. Should be a good show. I can't wait to see what they find.
And it's a huge opportunity. I'm really glad you guys are doing stuff like that because like the group that would be watching this, they would never have known that. And not everybody knows the right questions to ask or what I should be looking at. So it's a great opportunity.
It's really cool because you get to go watch a live investigation from the comfort of your own home, especially during the quarantine when not everybody's able to get out and investigate. For all the investigators out there like you guys, who are we're all stuck at home. It's nice to sit there and watch it and kind of get your fix. It makes you want to get out more, but it's a nice fix for a couple hours and entertaining, and you get to meet some new people, and it should be fun. I love doing them, and I love doing stuff like this with you guys and everything, the live streams and the podcast, and keep doing what you're doing, guys, because it's amazing. I love it.
All right. Well, we appreciate it again. And thank you for your time. Hopefully, we'll be able to do this again. And Courtney, do you want to sign us out?
Yeah, before you go, I got one more thing to say too. Go ahead, Courtney. You go first.
All right. I was going to say ParaAmera signing out.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. And don't forget, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Wednesday night on A&E Ghost Hunters.
100%. We make sure we post it too. So
we'll be in the Glen House in Missouri. In Cape something. I can't remember the name of the place. But we'll be there this Wednesday night. Amazing location. If you're ever in that part of Missouri, you should definitely check it out. It's open to the public as for tours and things, but it's a very active location. And we had a great time there investigating. And I think we answered some questions from the people there. And you guys will love it. It's an amazing investigation, amazing episode.
All right. Yeah, we're going to be checking that out. So we appreciate it again. And Courtney?
All right. ParaAmera signing off.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. Appreciate all your time. All right. Bye.